What's up, guys? So today we are reading some of your Reddit stories that you've given us. At the same time, I am also going to have my gaming session, so just sit back, take a few Doritos, Lay's, and chill. This is going to be a pretty long video. First story is from Mystic Moon 222.
Rainbow Lake. I changed the name of the lake for privacy reasons. If you've been there, you'll know. I used to think the sign at the parking lot entrance was a humorous, albeit odd way to scare people into behaving. Welcome to Rainbow Lake. To prevent injury and slasher death, please adhere to the following rules. Do not swim when the flag is red. Do not harm the wildlife. Do not urinate or defecate in the water. Do not litter. Do not steal rocks or sand. Be kind to Rainbow Lake, and it will be kind to you. For hours we strolled along the iridescent stones beneath a night sky whose moon scribbled a vertical path of embers across the water. Let's sit for a while, I suggested. We trudged away from the shoreline and plopped down on the sand. It glowed brighter than usual, 1,000 shades of blue twinkling like glass shards. Liv gazed down, scooping heaps of sand and letting it trickle beneath her fingers. You ready for tourist season? Yup, I rolled my eyes. I can't wait. Every year, the same tumbleweed grocery bags, Starbucks cup monuments, beer cans floating across the water. The same obnoxious boys, the same middle-agers with their yachts, the same men wandering from the bars, belligerent and brazen. Once I watched in horror as a drunk man rolled a bowling ball down the boardwalk. No idea where he got it from. A breeze sent pinpricks down our shoulders and carried the stench of fish. Between the whispers of waves, rainbow trout leapt and splashed. What is it, like 50,000 people each year? Yup. The sand felt cool and damp beneath my legs. And I read yesterday that the city's expecting about 10,000 more because of that fancy hotel they just built. Are you serious? Dead serious. Oh my God. Liv rubbed her hands together, but specks of glitter remained stuck to her palms. Do you think it'll happen again? I drew circles in the sand. I'd bet money on it. Summer vacation. 14 years old. It was really hot that afternoon, so Liv and I took a stroll along the pier to let the mist cool us off. Seagulls were scavenging for remnants of chips. We had almost made it to the lighthouse when Liv tapped my shoulder. What's he doing? A shirtless guy with green shorts stood crouched on the edge of the pier, gathering rocks from the water. He stood up and, after searching for a target, flung one at a seagull. It missed by a few inches. Damn it! Seagulls screamed and scattered as he plucked another rock from his palm. Hey! I shouted. He whipped around. What? They're pests. I'm only... A mountain of a wave reached up and pulled him off the pier. Last year. An unusually windy day. We walked along the boardwalk, wisps of blue sand curling around our feet. The tourists were sparse that day, a welcome respite. We paused when we noticed a woman kneeling on the sand, wearing a straw hat that barely held on, golden curls flapping in the wind. She shoveled iridescent stones into a mason jar. Once it was filled, she planted it upright on a beach towel, turned around, and entered the water. As soon as it reached her hips, she was pulled into a current, screaming and splashing and flailing her arms. We yelled for the lifeguard, who dove in after her, but it was too late. As soon as it started, the current pulled her under. She was never found. That's when we knew with certainty that the sign wasn't in jest. Why did we continue to go after that? Well, part of it is the memories, the nostalgia. Every summer since we were 5, trips with her parents or mine, playing Marco Polo and splashing each other and sneaking out for midnight trips. And honestly, we feel sympathy for it. It's never taken kids, and it only swallows people who purposely disrespect it, not someone whose napkins were swept away by wind, or plastic wrappers that someone forgot to pick up. For now, anyway. The waves moved faster, leaping over one another. I chewed my bottom lip. What if it takes us all one day? Liv gazed at the water for a few moments, then turned her head, brows drawn tight. Her blue eyes twinkled like the sand beneath us. I mean, could you blame it? I gazed forward and drank the beauty of it all. The star-filled sky, the way the water stretched and faded into the horizon, only broken by the orange light of the moon, the waves crawling up the sand and tickling my feet. Memories. 5 years old. I threw half a bag of chips in the water because I thought the fish would eat them. 6 years old. I carried a Barbie doll into the water and I lost my grip. Before I could grab it, the doll disappeared in a wave. I bounded out of the water and ran to my mom, who held me as I wept. I wondered if synthetic residue from my bathing suit bottoms was seeping into the sand. Had I been polluting the lake with particles of polyester, shedding from my swimsuits every time I swam? A stray water bottle rocked along the water. No, I swallowed. I couldn't.
Damn! That was a good story. Now let's head toward the second story. It's about a town called Candletown. Hope I pronounced it right. This is Story from Gilded Archways. So let's start.
I'm stuck in a place called Candletown. Please help me. Has anyone ever heard of this place? Because I'm stranded here. It's a ghost town unlike I've ever seen, and I'm an avid explorer who's been to many a ghost town. Let me back up to the beginning, though. I like to travel. Specifically, I like to travel to nowhere. Small, middle-of-the-empty towns, isolated parks, and, of course, forgotten ghost towns. Things of that nature. I'm actually working on a travel series called Nowheresville, USA, documenting my adventures to places like this. Well, this time I was headed out to the middle of Nevada, way out in the desert, to a small ghost town called Havensburg. It is way out there, like so far out in that tan wasteland that I was worried I'd run out of gas. I'd been traveling for hours at this point, down an old state highway with absolutely nothing but shrubland and sand around me, and I was starting to get nervous. I did have an extra gas container, but, well, you never want to have to actually use the thing. So, imagine my relief when I saw a big, beautiful sign for Candletown, USA. Population 250, if the sign was to be believed. It felt like finding an oasis in the Sahara. Gas and food, and a little bit of rest, all promised in shining metallic green. And it was just 15 miles ahead, off the highway. I sped there. My gas light was close to lighting up, so it was pedal to the metal for 15 long, empty miles. Then an exit, and 2 more miles on a side road into desert land. For a minute, I felt I'd been lied to. There was a hill before me, but no sign of the town so far. Typical for these isolated hamlets, but unnerving all the same. And yet, when I crested that hill, there she was in all her dilapidated glory. Roughshod, collapsed buildings dotted the sandy valley. There were only a few beaten and sandblasted roads off of the main street, one leading to a small, deserted residential plot of homes, another to what appeared to be a mine shaft. Another still branched up a hill to old mining buildings, and the fourth went to a sharp, white stone historical marker in the shape of an obelisk. The main street was quaint, if empty. An empty parlor with no door sat beside an old grocery store, its windows whole but dusty. A few empty, decaying cars sat parked in slanted parking spots. There was a church, and it seemed to be in pretty solid shape, its wood well painted and its steeple still standing proud. Beside it, a gas station, and then a hotel, both of which seemed open. Hallelujah, I thought. I'd be okay. I stopped at the fuel station first, parking at its only pump. By now, the desert was growing colder, darker as the sun began to retreat beneath the bruised horizon. Lucky me, that hotel was right there. I slipped into the store and looked around, resolved to hurry up and snag a room to rest. The shelves were stocked, which was nice. I grabbed some bottles of water and some snacks and headed to the vacant counter. A little dinner bell sat here, begging to be tapped, and so I did. Its little ding summoned the attendant. She was tall. That was the first thing I noticed. Very tall, like 6.5 feet. Slender and beautiful, though, with long black hair and sharp features. She offered a wary, if pleasant smile as she came out of the back. "Hi," I said, placing my purchases on the counter. "Hello," she purred back. "We don't get many travelers out here. Is this all for you?" I nodded. "This and 30 on your pump." She began to ring me up. "So," she said, her voice almost humming, "what brings you this far out?" "Oh, I'm headed to Havensburg. I'm a sort of writer-explorer, and Havensburg is my next topic." She grinned. "Ghost towns, huh? You know, Candletown is considered such. You might consider staying a while and writing about us." "Oh, maybe," I chuckled. "Maybe on my way out. I mean, it is pretty desolate. Kind of wild to meet anyone at all out here. You live here?" Shrugging, she said, Sort of. My twin and I keep the spirit going. Twin? I asked. Yep, she runs the hotel next door. You'll know her when you see her. My eyebrows shot up. I was actually going to try and rent a room there. Her eyes lit up. Oh, well, tell her Bray sent you. She'll comp the room. Seems like you could make good use of it anyway. Oh yeah, absolutely, I said. I'm exhausted. Her smile widened. Glad you're here. Always good to see a new face out here. I smiled back. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you. She merely winked as I turned heel to go fill up my Jeep. Once that was done, I scooted my car a lot over and parked at the hotel. It's old, the hotel. From the 60s, maybe the 70s. Certainly preserved well. By the twins, I figured. Still, something about it was, odd, out of place. I pinned it to the pristine nature of the building, as juxtaposed with the rest of the ghost town. But I didn't, and don't, think that captures the entire essence of the hotel. Still, I needed sleep. What are you talking about? Are you safe? I licked my lips. I do not know, to be honest. From there, I did my best to explain myself, but I'm not sure she understood. I don't blame her, I mean. I wouldn't believe it if she told me what I just told her. I did my best, though. Beneath the panic, I had an idea. I told her to hang on while I pulled up my Maps app. And when I did, well, I was expecting something, but the Maps app was black. Empty, like I was in a void. I don't think I have GPS, I told her. Can you see where Candletown is? I heard the tap, tap, tap of long nails on a phone. Then a pause. Then more tapping. And after another bout of silence, she said, There is no Candletown in Nevada. There's no Candletown in the US, like at all. I dropped my phone. Her hello was echoing at my feet. And I just stared at the town. The town in the middle of nowhere. The town in nowhere, apparently. I guess I had finally found the literal Nowheresville. Eventually, I managed to get some of my senses back. I picked up my phone with shaking fingers, pressed it to my ear, and said, If there's no Candletown, where am I? Silence. Then, share your location on Snapchat. I did so. Well? I asked. More silence. Then finally, I don't see it. It doesn't even say you're online. My heart began to flutter. I felt queasy, cold, rigid, like a corpse with food poisoning. I didn't know what else to say, what to do. My breathing quickened, and my tremors grew to a shake. And then, just before I could say anything else, I saw movement in the town. A figure. Someone going into the church. They were tall, dressed in a black dress. I think it was Shay. Or Bray. I'm not sure. Without anything left, I told my sister I'd call her back and hung up unceremoniously. Whoever that was, they were probably my best bet. I started my engine and made my way down the hill to the main street where I parked at the church. It loomed over me like a sentinel, guarding something. And, I mean, that's where I am now. Just sitting outside of the church, staring at its wooden doors. Truth be told, I'm afraid to go in. I have this sickly feeling, a nausea from the pit of my chest, just staring at the building. Maybe it's because I'm already incredibly freaked out. Maybe my gut is telling me something. I just don't know. A red moth just fluttered by and I flinched. Just to show how paranoid I am right now. Does anyone have any advice, please? I don't know what to do. Should I go in the church? It seems like it might be my best bet. If that's where Bray/Shay went. Maybe they know something. Or maybe it's a bad idea. I don't know. Help, please. I don't want to be stuck in Candletown.
Okay, that one was quite interesting. Now let's head toward the third story. Its title is It Calls for Me at Night, from Specialist_Team9022. I think this one is a short story, so let's dive in. Why am I feeling this is a creepy story? Let's go. If you guys want part 2 of this story, Candletown comment down for it.
There isn't much to say, so I'll keep this one short. I moved to North Carolina to take care of my grandfather back in 2025. He lives just outside of Greensboro on about a 50-acre plot of land he inherited from his own father. It's a small house attached to a failing farm, but he's always called it home. I received the call back in November. Grandpa had completely stopped talking on a random night, and needed someone around the house to help him. I had just gone through a bad breakup myself, so the idea of getting away for a while sounded right. A change of scenery was exactly what I needed. For months, everything was quiet and routine out there. That was true until last week. I had just finished the nightly chores around the house when suddenly a loud bang cracked through the air from somewhere outside. My first thought was that the pigs had somehow forced their gate open again, so I sprinted out the door. I came to a sudden stop when the crisp evening air hit my face. I stood there for a moment, taking in the field. From what I could see, everything looked normal. No animals wandering the property. The pig pen was still shut. It wasn't until my eyes drifted toward the barn that I noticed something strange. The large red barn doors, usually left propped open during the warmer nights, were completely shut. I turned on my phone's flashlight and started walking toward the barn, hoping I could just reopen the doors and head back inside to the sleep I had been dreaming about all day. But as I got closer, something began to feel wrong. It was quiet. Too quiet, even for rural North Carolina. My heartbeat started to pick up as I realized the constant drone of cicadas that normally filled the night had vanished. The wind wasn't blowing either. The metal chimes on the porch hung perfectly still, not making a sound, like the air itself had been smothered. I forced myself to keep walking, telling myself I was just being paranoid. But with every step, my shoes felt heavier, like the ground itself was trying to hold me back. When I finally reached the barn, I grabbed the doors and pulled them open with a long groan of old wood. I braced myself for something inside, but when I shined my light across the floor, everything looked normal. Empty stalls, tools hanging on the walls, nothing out of place. I propped the doors open and let out a long breath of relief. I won't lie, I started jogging a little on my way back to the house. A few minutes later, I was in bed and drifting off to sleep. It wasn't until later that night that I woke up again. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard it clearly. A faint scratching sound coming from my bedroom window. There's a massive oak tree outside my room, and its branches sometimes scrape the glass, so I wasn't too worried. That is, until I heard my grandfather's voice come from outside. "Come outside, Champ." The words caught in my throat. No one has called me Champ since I was a kid except my grandfather. The voice came again, raspier this time and more insistent, but something about it sounded wrong. Like a recording that had been played and copied too many times. "Come outside." I shot upright in bed. Every instinct in my body told me not to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I turned toward the window, and my eyes immediately locked on the barn. The interior light was on now, casting a pale glow across the yard. Just outside that light stood something tall and twisted, barely visible in the dark. As my eyes adjusted, I saw long, narrow claws hanging from its hands, easily 10 inches long. Patches of gray, matted fur clung to its body. The creature leaned slightly into the light and opened its jaws, and what came out still terrifies me to this day. "Champ, I need some help." The voice was a perfect imitation of my grandfather's, but hollow and mocking. I dove back under my blankets, heart pounding, hoping sleep would somehow take me again. Eventually it did, though the slow scratching on my window continued the entire night. The next day, my grandfather passed away in his sleep. The first responders said it was a heart attack, sometime around 3 a.m. I'm in charge of the farm now, which honestly hasn't been too bad. But every night, once everything goes quiet, I hear his voice outside calling for me again.
Okay, the stories are keep getting better. Don't leave now. You'll regret it later before I hop into next story from top_spirit_9672. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. If you are enjoying it till now, please feel free to do it. And also sorry for AI voice. I'll soon get a real voice.
About 6 months ago, my dog went missing. He's a gray Great Dane. I've had him for almost 8 years. His name is Leo. He has lovely big brown eyes, and whenever I call his name or talk to him, he cocks his head with curiosity or excitement. The sheer whisper of the word walk would send his head swinging from side to side or up and down with excitement. He was a lovely boy, a good boy. I thought he was gone for good. It had been 3 weeks. I had gone on holiday and left my brother in charge of looking after Leo. He said he took him for a walk in the woods by my house, and Leo just started to go crazy and managed to get out of his collar and ran into the woods. It was hard to believe Leo would do something like that, as he was usually such a calm dog, especially in his old age. But I also didn't believe that my brother would do something to him. He loved Leo. There was a big age gap between us, so he had essentially grown up with him. He was heartbroken about what had happened. He called me crying after hours of looking, saying who couldn't find him. Mom and Dad said he was freezing when he got in. They had look as well, but no luck. Which was odd. The woods weren't that wood big. You could easily walk them in an hour and width about 20 minutes. I missed that little goofy ball so much, but I didn't want to let on to my brother how heartbroken I was. It made me feel even worse seeing him. But then, 3 weeks later, there he was, at the end on my garden. The woods that my brother had taken him to wormed around to the back of my house. There was no fence, so I could just walk from my house straight into the woods, and I often would with Leo. I was shocked to see him. I was just about to sit down for tea when I saw a glimpse of him in the corner of my eye. I stood up immediately and ran to the back door, calling his name as I ran out. He stood there for a moment, still. My run slowed down a bit as I saw him. He seemed silent, still. Leo, come here, boy. It's me. It's Mummy, I said, holding out my hand. Come on, lovely boy. He walked towards me. Not slowly, but not quickly, just casually. I thought it was odd, especially with how excited he would usually get when he saw me after I'd been on holiday or just away at work. Then he walked past me to the back door and waited for me to open it. I watched him for a moment, taken back, then open it for him, and he casually walked in. I watched him casually walk around the house, staring at everything, his head staying up right as he did. He looked stiff. He's probably cold, I told myself, and grabbed him his blanket to put over him. I attempted to wrap it around him, but he stood stiff as ever, and then continued to walk around the house, the blanket lazily lying on him like a cape. I chuckled a little. It was funny seeing him with it again. Then I remembered my brother, so I grabbed my phone from the living room and called him immediately. Lydia? He said hoarse. Did you just wake up? It's 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, I took a nap. Everything okay? Better than okay. I found Leo, I said as I paced around the house searching to where Leo had gotten to. What? Really? Where? In the garden. He must have found his way home. Wow, I can't believe it. How? I don't know. I mean, I've walked him in those woods his whole life. He wasn't in the living room or the kitchen. How does he look? He must be hungry? I hadn't even thought. Well, honestly, he looks how he did when I last saw him, I said. A growing worry now started bubbling in my stomach. I hadn't have imagined it. Had I? He was there. I held him. I doubted. Really? What did he eat, rabbits? Then saw him in the dining room, facing the wall, his ears standing straight and his eyes fixed on the wall. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta to go. I might see if I can take him to the vets just to check he's okay. They won't be open this late, will they? Some do. Bye. I hung up the phone and tried to pull his head away from the wall. Eventually he did. He had this vacant expression on his face. Are you hungry, boy? I asked as I went into the kitchen to get him bowl, though I hadn't been able to throw his bowl away. But I did throw his dog food away. I opened the fridge to see what I had. Bacon from the butcher's. His favorite. I heard his claws scratching against the tiled floors. He stared at me as I unwrapped the meat and put it in his bowl. He stood there for a moment looking at me. I pointed at his bowl. Food, I suggested. He looked down at the bowl, then leaned down. I picked up my phone again and began to call the vet. I walked into the hallway as I did, leaving Leo. Hi, I was just wondering if you guys are open still. The sound of Leo eating the meat was louder than normal. I could just hear his chomping over and over again. Till 9? Yeah, that's great. Chomp, chomp, chomp. At times it even sounded like he was biting the bowl. He must be hungry, I thought. Yeah, it's Lydia, Taylor, and Leo. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Yeah, I found him. I can't believe it. That's why I want to bring him in to see if he's okay. As the receptionist was questioning me about Leo, I looked back into the kitchen. Chomp, chomp, chomp. No, I don't see anything wrong with him. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Yeah, I'll be right down. I hung up the phone. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Leo, Leo? I moved him away from his bowl. He hadn't eaten anything. He had just been biting it over and over again. The dents of his teeth had made the meat look even more mushy than usual. We went to the vet. I was greeted by the receptionist. Raya, she had gotten 3 new piercings since I last seen her. She already had 12. She mentions that Dr. Raymond was away this month. He was sick with something. They weren't sure what, but they think it was one of the animals that gave it to him. She said Dr. Rain would see me. I thought she retired? I asked. Yeah, well, with Dr. Raymond gone, we need someone, and she was the only option, she said with a roll of her eyes. Dr. Rain was one of the stricter vets. Never smiled. Harsh to talk to. I remember what she said to me when we had to put our cat down. It happens. Part of life. Can you leave room? I expected the worst when I walked in. Dr. Rain was facing the wall when I walked in. She turned around with a smile on her face. Nothing is scarier than seeing someone who never smiled. Smile. Her loose skin hung over her face like a bulldog, as if it was trying to force her into a frown. Oh, hello, I said. You look chipper? Always, my dear, always, she replied. Her voice was hoarse and scratchy. Not surprising, as she used to smoke a pack a day. I could always smell it on her, and since retiring, I'm guessing it went up 2 2-packs. She said Leo was healthy. Nothing major. I mentioned some of the weird behavior. She said it was normal for an animal to act different after something like this. He needs you to show him who he was and who you were to him. The vet smiled a toothy smile. He just needs some taking care of. He's been alone in those woods, she cooed, petting him. He seemed to respond a bit. Animals get trauma too. She sang. I had never thought an animal could get trauma like humans, but it reminded me of my childhood cat. Billy, she was an outdoor curios cat until we moved house. Then she refused to go outside or leave the house at all. She hated the garden. The next day, my brother came over and ran to see Leo. He still lived with my parents, and they lived on the opposite side of the woods. Hey boy, remember me? He said as he patted Leo on the head. There was no reaction. He simply stared at him. What, have we got beef now? Come on, boy, it's your uncle. The vet said he has trauma or summit. Trauma? My brother exclaimed. Why, what happened to him out there? He's an animal. He's supposed to be in the woods. I don't know. It's no like he can tell me. I looked down at Leo. He cocked his head. I didn't know animals could get trauma, my brother said, distracting me as he walked into the kitchen. What the hell is in his bowl? Dog food, but he doesn't sallow it. He just bites it. Weird. As he jumped on the counter to grab some snacks. My brother and I walked Leo that lunchtime. Leo was still and silent for the most part. Every now and again, I'd see him cock his head. The entire walk, he would look back at me. My brother even noticed. He joked, saying that he must have missed me and wanted to make sure he wouldn't lose me again. That night, I ordered a pizza. I wasn't in the mood for cooking. My head was everywhere at the minute. My parents were away for the week, so I was also in charge of my little brother not being too stupid while they were away. I bit into my pizza. Gulp. Gulp. I looked up, turning to where I had heard the noise. Leo was sat in the living room, staring at me as I sat in the dining room. He wasn't eating anything. I took another bite. So did Leo, but of nothing. Just the air. I swallowed. Leo swallowed. I went to bit again, but paused beforehand. Leo didn't. He chomped at the air. the clashing of his teeth echoing slightly. I looked at him and then at his bowl in the kitchen. He still wasn't really eating his food. I grabbed his bowl. It still had dog food in it. I put it down in front of him. He leaned down, took a bite, then swallowed, and continued to do so till there was nothing left in his bowl. I sat down at the table and continued to eat my pizza. Leo watched for a moment before turning and leaving. He had become a lot more isolated, didn't want to spend time with me, just observe. I thought about how he was before he went missing. Confident, friendly dog, always trying to sit on my lap despite his size. If I let him on the couch, he took up most of it, his legs hanging off the end as he slept. I cleaned up my plate and his bowl, then sat in the living room. I was happy to rest. I hadn't been sleeping much, and it was getting to me. I sat down on the couch, relaxed sleepily, let out a as I closed my eyes. I heard echo from behind me, making me turn around as quickly as I heard it, but there was nothing there, nothing but Leo. He looked at me, and I looked at him. He cocked his head, and his eyes were white. Not all white, but the bit around it. He still had his big brown eyes, just not as big and now with a white part, like a human. I hated to admit it. I wished every day for him to return. I wanted him back so badly, but now he was scaring me. What could I say though? My dog has different eyes. He just stares too much. He's just weird, but in a vibe sort of way. Nothing physical. He eats when I eat. He gulps when I gulp. Something wasn't right. I thought about leaving him at a rescue center, but every time I got close to doing it, I remembered what the vet said. It's trauma. It's normal for animals to react like this. And I think how alone he must have been out there, how cold and hungry. Then I think about the little puppy I brought home 7 years ago. That sweet little puppy I raised and shared so many memories with. My lovely boy, my good boy. I missed him so much. I thought maybe he needed more time. I called the vets to see if I could get another appointment, but they were full that month. Raya said some of the other vets had gotten sick too. I asked if the sickness was contagious to dogs. Dr. Rain had told her no, dogs were fine. It was more wild animals. A few days went by and nothing new happened. He started to swallow more of his food. He was still observing a lot, and every now and again I'd hear an echo. A sigh, a cough, or a gulp, right after I would. Nothing that a dog couldn't do, but still, until one weekend. I had gone out with some friends and stayed over at a mate's house. I arrived home late the next day. I probably overstayed my welcome, but I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to see Leo. It was already dark when I got in. Leo, Leo, I said as I slowly crept around the corner of the living room, trying not to make a sound. Leo, I whispered, almost hoping he wouldn't hear. I moved to the dining room, looking around every corner. I knew he'd be hungry. Then I heard a low growl from behind me. That's when I saw him. It was Leo, but he was taller, his legs and arms much longer than before. The toes on his paws were elongated and disfigured. They were bleeding. Some of his claws had fallen off. And his eyes. His eyes were whiter now, with small piercing brown irises, one larger than the other, seemingly pulsating. His fur was longer around his head, but not all over. It was patchy. Its snout was letting out deep, heavy breaths as its mouth opened a gap. Breathing from it, moving up and down opposite to its snout. His fangs were bigger, and some poking out of his mouth, some looking more round than others. I had never seen anything like this. Lydia, it whispered with a hoarse burst in the middle of my name, as if something was moaning within. Lydia, it whispered again, ending with a spurting cough that also sounded like a grunted low bark. I began to walk slowly into the kitchen. I could hear what was left of its claws hitting the tiled floor as it followed me. Lydia! I placed my hand on the handle of the back door. I heard its claws again, but now in a rhythm as if it was tapping every individual finger on the floor, one at a time. I saw a smile stretch across its face. "Lovely," it hissed. A few of its teeth splatted out as blood dripped down its mouth. It stretched a toothless smile across its face once more. I ripped open the back door and ran into the woods. I ran straight for my parents' house. I didn't look back once, but I could hear something clumsily chasing me through the woods. The pace of its legs seemed off. Every now and again, I could see a shadow rise from behind me, lit up by the moon, before crashing down. It ran like a newborn deer. I could hear it smashing into trees and rocks, moaning as it did, calling my name every time. I managed to get to the house and banged on the door. "Let me in! Let me in! It's me!" I yelled. I could hear heavy breathing growing louder from behind me. In the reflection of the window, I could see it creeping from the woods, attempting to stand on two legs to only fall back down on all fours, its shoulder blades rolling back as it did. My brother eventually opened the door, and I pushed past him, slamming the door as I did. "Chill out," he lazily replied. He was high. I could smell it. "Twat," I replied. "What? What's up? What's happening?" he said, looking through the window of the door. I grabbed him before he got too close. "Leo, something's wrong with Leo." I spat still, trying to catch my breath. "Yeah, he's traum." Before my brother could finish his sentence, the creature smashed through the kitchen window. "Lydia." It hung in the window, the sound of its back paws clawing on the wall to push it in. It front claws scratching at the inner walls to balance itself. Its eyes scorching into mine as its hair covered its grotesque face. I could see its spine moving underneath its skin as it did. Shards of glasses carving into its back. "Lydia!" it cried, spitting blood, while even more poured from its wounds. Its eyes widen and burning. It looked as though it was crying. Seemingly feeling pain for the first time, I grabbed a knife from a drawer in the kitchen and began slicing at its face. It screeched with every strike, a human beast-like screech, piercing my ears. My brother awkwardly threw books at it from my dad's bookshelf. I dove the knife into its skull. It moaned and whined as blood gushed from its head down its face, blanketing its eyes, which pulsated and stretched even more. It fell back out of the window and attempted to crawl back into the woods. But its wounds were too much. It left a bloody trail as it slid on the grass, crawling towards the woods with its two front arms. Seemingly howling at something, its body laid limp at the end of my parents' garden. We called the police, and no one knew what to make of it. They said it was rabies or a tumor that made him go crazy. I don't know what it was, but I moved away from those woods as quickly as I could and managed to convince my parents to do the same. And I'm glad I did, as when the creature was howling a human beast like Howl into the Woods, I swear I could hear something howl back.
Oh, my God. What a traumatizing way of losing a pet. Really interesting reversal of werewolf transformation. Do you guys think the vets being sick all at almost the same time and Dr. Rain's unusual behavior at Leo's appointment have something to do with it? Anyways, let's move on to news story from Araya Wynn and Son.
As a kid, I used to lose my glasses all the time. I have really shitty eyesight. I know a lot of people say that, but I don't know anyone whose better eye is -11. My worst one is -14 for that matter, but it's not like you can feel a difference at this point. At anything below -10, the world becomes a palette of colors, with shapes distinguishable only by intuition. I don't know how I ended up with royally fucked up genetics. Both of my parents only need reading glasses, and even that started only recently. My dad probably still wouldn't have found out if not for mandatory testing at his job. He is a sea captain. It doesn't come as a surprise that when I was a kid, I wanted to be like him. I found out that this wouldn't be possible very early on, so besides occasionally letting myself fantasize, I focused on my second biggest dream, which was water. I was a son of a sea captain, and if I couldn't conquer the ocean, I wanted to be swallowed by it. We are born wet. It's only natural that we crave it throughout life, being overjoyed at poor substitutes like warm baths and swimming pools. It's never been enough for me. We lived by the sea, which gave me plenty opportunities to try my chances at drowning. My parents weren't really happy with it, not because they were concerned for me. They were, of course, but I was a great swimmer. We were tight on money, though, and letting me swim in the sea meant having to buy a new pair of glasses every month at best. I lost them so often that most of my vague apologies blur together, along with fuzzy shape of my mother's disappointed face. I remember one time in particular, though, when I managed to not only lose my glasses, but also nearly drown. I was 7 at the time, and I was teasing the sea to come and get me with its enormous, greedy hands. I remember looking at my mom sunbathing at the shore one last time before the ocean grabbed me and refused to let me out. Before I even realized what was happening, the water ripped my mouth open and stormed in, making me swallow it. I was trapped, and even though I saw the light somewhere above me, it was far out of my reach, constantly getting covered by new surges of water. If I had been able to think clearly, I would have prayed, but there was no time for that. Soon enough, I saw my very first eclipse of the sun as the light disappeared behind the shadow over me. The shadow then pulled me out of the water and held me close to its chest in a very tight grip. I heard my mom's voice repeating, "Oh my God," and "You're safe," over and over again straight to my ear, and as I wrapped my arms around her neck, I started to realize I had been very scared the whole time, so scared I let her carry me to the shore. I didn't cry because the sea had already cried for me and left me all drenched in its tears. My mom got rid of them with a towel rough with sand. Even though I couldn't even see her face, I still remember how scared she was. I think that was the only time when she didn't scold me for losing glasses in the sea. Her voice was filled with worry, to the point that besides feeling scared, I felt embarrassed by making her feel this way. She kept saying she thought she lost me and that she loved me. And to be completely honest, I've never felt as loved as back in that moment, before or after. I stumbled all the time on our way home. I really missed my dad, but he was somewhere at the ocean, so spending time with him wasn't an option. I couldn't do much without the glasses, so after my mom made dinner, I listened to her reading me a book. I don't remember what book she read me, but I really wish I did. Nothing calmed me down as fast and made me asleep as easily as that book. I struggle a lot with insomnia, and I could really use some help. I fell asleep early that evening. The last thing I remember is her giving me a goodnight kiss as steady, secure darkness embraces me, my eyesight, and my dreams. My next memory is being woken up by front door being unlocked. It was the middle of the night, and I was a little afraid of the dark, but I got up and went to check what was happening in the hall. A person was standing there. When she saw me, she screamed. That scream would have scared you back to your room forever, but it only made me slightly confused. I would recognize my mom's voice everywhere. I just didn't understand why she kept asking me how I got home. I probably remember this so well because of how many times it's been recalled by me or one of my parents. It became a story to tell at parties or on dates, something in which people don't actually believe, but pretend to do so because it's still interesting. My parents are probably the only people who ever treated it seriously, mostly because for that whole day, my mom was convinced I drowned in the sea or got kidnapped. She got home after she gave her statement to the police. I still sometimes wonder who rescued me and brought me home that day. I remember her face as an oval shape with 3 holes, just like I remember every face from the days without glasses. It could have been anything.
That's amazing yet so terrifying story. That's a whole different thing for her. Thanks for watching till now. Bye guys, see you in next video. Till then, take care, bye bye.